Hi everybody, and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. So as you read in the title, today's video is about a Bridezilla. But before we go to the main Bridezilla event, here is a short post of a Bridezilla, if you want to call her that, or just a horrible human being. Subject: I want my fiance to get rid of his 4-year-old daughter. Message: Hi Ad Talks With Me, I need some advice from the mommies on your page. My fiance has a 4-year-old daughter. Her mother passed away when she was born. He's been raising her on his own ever since he lost his wife. I am now in the picture, and we are set to get married in 2022. I'm also 7 months pregnant with a precious little girl. I am not the stepmother type, and I know I won't treat his daughter the same way I will treat our child. To be quite honest, she gets on my damn nerves. For one, the little girl looks like her mother, and having her around constantly reminds my fiance of his dead wife. Second, she is very attached to her daddy, and I'm afraid this is going to take away from my child's bond with her father. I basically want to tell my fiance to get rid of her. She can live with her grandparents, or we can find her a nice family that's looking to adopt a child. I don't know how to approach the situation, but I need to find a way to convince my fiance to let her go. I promise I'm not a bad person, I'm just trying to look out for my child and make sure she receives all of her daddy's attention without having her older sister intervene. Please help. Well, first of all, if you're listening to this and you feel like you've been a bad person for anything, well, now you know that there are complete trash piles of human beings out there that can make you look like Mother Teresa, so there's no need to be upset anymore. Anyways, you probably could tell by the tone of my voice that that was all sarcastic. I cannot truly say what I feel and think about this woman because I don't want my channel to get cancelled. However, and as always, all of your comments are more than welcomed in the comment section. So now, let's move on to the main story. This one's from user DataNerd1011. Bridezilla upset that a separate girls trip isn't treated as her second bachelorette party. So, I have a circle of very good friends from college. 2 of them are key to this story. We'll call them Sue and Pam. Now, I want to point out that none of us, prior to this incident, had ever had any issues with one another. No fights, always there for each other, and I would never describe Pam, the Bridezilla, as selfish or mean in any way outside of the wedding. In college, Pam dated a very crappy dude who cheated on her, lots of drama, etc. They were together for a few years and broke up, but we all worried that she now had a twisted sense of what a normal relationship was like. She ends up moving back to her home state after college, and about 6 months later, she met a wonderful guy, Ron, and 3 years later, he proposed. Ron is one of the most steady, decent guys I've ever met, and we are all thrilled for her. Pam asked me to be maid of honor, which surprised me, but we are close and I was happy to say yes. At this point, I had been living abroad for a few years. She wanted her bachelorette in an American city known for partying, so I organized it from abroad. We have it there and it's wild but very fun. I really think she had a fantastic time, and the entire weekend was about her and her only, as it should be. I really think she was so happy and felt so loved. It's important to note that Pam, who was always already super tiny, decided that she needed to lose weight for the wedding and was barely eating the entire weekend, and had clearly lost like 10 to 15 pounds. I could see her ribs. It's also important to note that the bachelorette was in early April and her wedding was in early June of that year. To backtrack a bit, about a month before Ron proposed, a full year before this story, Sue, Pam, and I had decided to take a trip to a European city, let's call it Genovia. 1 year from that point. We booked everything immediately. Pam then gets engaged and plans her wedding for 2 weeks after this Genovia trip ends. She doesn't think the timeline is too tight, so we go ahead with the trip as planned. At Pam's bachelorette, Sue and I meet Pam's work friend, Felicia. Felicia is wildly unhappy in her marriage, so she asks if she can come to the Genovia trip with us. I tell Pam that I'm totally happy with this as long as it doesn't cost me any extra money for the hotel. Pam assures me she has contacted the hotel and secured an extra bed in the room. Fast forward to the trip, 5 weeks later, and the four of us are in a city outside of Genovia for one day and have a flight at 5 a.m. the next morning. We stupidly decided to just stay up until we have to leave for the airport at 3 a.m. Terrible idea, I know. At about midnight, all of us are drinking wine casually in a wine bar, except for the problem that Pam has barely eaten the entire day. She ends up puking all over the table. We throw some money down on the table and leave. As we're walking her back to the Airbnb, she is sobbing, completely inconsolable. She had earlier told us that her awful ex from college had recently contacted her trying to win her back. And we're now a few weeks out from her wedding. Obviously, Sue and I assume that she's crying because maybe she's unsure about getting married. Sue, who is also a bridesmaid, tries to console her and says, "Listen, my sister called off her wedding 1 week before. If you don't want to marry Ron, we support you no matter what you decide. We won't be mad." About spending a crap ton of money to be in her wedding, Pam is silent and continues to cry. We get back to the Airbnb and put her and Felicia to sleep while Sue and I stay up chatting about absolutely nothing of relevance for the next hour. At 2:30 a.m., we wake them up and say we have to get ready to head to the airport. Pam flat out refuses to move. She says, "I'm going home. You guys go without me to Genovia. I'm going to head to the airport later and go home." And we say, "Pam, that is insane. We've had this planned for a year. You're just drunk. Put on clothes and let's go. Ron would be so mad at you for spending the money to change your very long and international flight. You'll sober up on the plane and regret it." Pam is sobbing again and refusing. At this point, I've started packing her bags for her and we all ignore her. The cab comes and we pile in with Pam still sobbing and the driver giving us nervous looks. We get to the airport, she's still sobbing. I'm fully convinced that Genovia TSA will refuse a sobbing drunk girl from getting through security, but luckily they didn't care at all, lol, and let us through. And I mean, she was wailing. She screamed at Sue that she didn't even want her in the bridal party, that she wished she had picked someone else, screaming that none of us actually like her, screaming at me that I'm not her best friend, true, and she should have chosen someone else as maid of honor, screaming that we were terrible, terrible friends to her because we suggested she didn't want to marry Ron. We explained to her that we were just trying to guess the reason for her tears, but she wouldn't listen. She sobs through the plane ride, sobs in the cab to the hotel, and finally we get to the hotel at 6:30 a.m. and put her on a sunbed by the pool to sleep, since it was too early to get into our rooms. So Sue, Felicia, and I approach hotel reception to check in. If you hadn't already guessed, Pam did not in fact organize another bed for Felicia. We are livid. We end up having to book another room for the first 2 nights. Luckily for Felicia, we have a friend from college, Tom, who also lives abroad, and his brother and brother's girlfriend meeting us in 3 days. They have an extra room, so we decide that Pam will go stay in that extra room with Tom since she is good friends with Tom and Felicia doesn't know them at all. Fast forward to noon. Pam finally wakes up, is sober enough to have a calm conversation but has no recollection of the night. She only remembers she was really angry and tells us she's mad at us. We ask her why she was so angry and she says she heard us talking crap about her while we thought she was sleeping. We tell her this categorically did not happen. We were talking about Kigo for most of that hour, lol. She keeps insisting that we were talking crap but ends up dropping it, hugs us and then leaves to take a nap in the room. Felicia, Sue and I decided to let it go. I was livid that she put us through that and effed up the hotel rooms, but since I was maid of honor in 2 weeks, I let it go. So the 3rd day arrives and Tom and company arrive. We had an amazing first 2 days despite the rough start. The only hiccups were that Pam kept doing small strange things, half expecting the rest of us to buy her drinks at the bar, acting really surprised if she said she wanted to get dinner at place A and the rest of us said we wanted to go to B, so we went to B. Small things, but I noticed. And Sue and I are getting along really well with Felicia. And any time that Pam is not the center of attention, she will butt in and refocus the attention on her. When Tom and company arrive, Pam has forgotten that one person will have to stay with Tom and company. We all go on a sailing snorkeling trip for the morning, and Pam makes it her mission during this trip to convince one of us to go stay with Tom instead of her. Sue and I flat out refuse. Pam was the one who messed up the booking. Pam needs to go stay there. Pam keeps saying it shouldn't be her, saying it's not fair. Why should it be her of all people? Again, this confuses me. She then pulls Felicia aside and tells her that Felicia has to go stay with Tom, even though Felicia has just met Tom. Felicia comes to Sue and I upset. We tell Pam that she's staying with Tom and company, end of discussion. Pam pouts in a corner for the entire rest of the sailing trip, but we all ignore her. We get back to land at about 3 and make plans to meet in town for a drink and then dinner. Tom texts me and says that Pam has been crying for the last hour, and then he says she said she's not coming out. I texted Pam a quick, "Okay, well, if you decide to join, I'll text you where we are." Sue, Felicia, and I highly debated if we should go over and try to talk with her, but I put my foot down and said, "Listen, that's exactly what she wants. She is acting like a child. And may I remind you that this is all her fault and she still never apologized for her behavior the other day?" So the 6 of us go into town and end up having a wild night. It was so much fun. Hands down, the best night of the trip. Meanwhile, we can see that Pam is posting Instagram stories from bars nearby, but is still not reaching out to join us. We ignore this and have an amazing night. The next morning, we all meet up for brunch and Pam is very quiet. She is clearly upset that we all had such a great time without her. We leave to go grab a drink somewhere and the place she suggests is overruled by another suggestion. Pam once again sulks and pouts and looks just so shocked that no one wants to do what she's suggesting. And then it hit me. The last time we had seen her, it was her bachelorette party. She was center of attention. We did whatever she wanted. She was treating this trip like her second bachelorette party. I'm sorry, hon, but no way. We planned this trip before you were engaged. This is our holiday, not a second, even better bachelorette for Pam. The rest of the trip went fine. We all parted ways and then saw each other on the wedding weekend. She acted totally normal and so happy and ecstatic the entire weekend because, of course, the attention was back on her. I was really angry that she still never apologized for anything, but swallowed it for the wedding. I honestly could write a second post about all the other Bridezilla crap that happened, forcing us to buy expensive dresses, shoes, we had to pay for our own hair and makeup and nails, which had to be professionally done. And she made all 6 bridesmaids stay with her the night before the wedding. Which would have been fine, except we stayed in her 2-bedroom house and myself and another bridesmaid had to sleep on the floor. At the wedding, she refused to eat during the day and barely touched her dinner, so she was, very obviously, blacked out by the time the first dance happened, and it was mortifying to watch her husband drag her across the dance floor. So maybe it was a little bit of karma coming to bite her in the butt. Smiley face. Just to add, we're all still friends. I let it go. She changed back to normal after the wedding, so ending the friendship didn't seem worth it, but making a Reddit post years later did. And also, her and Ron are still married, and very happy, which I'm so glad about. Edit. Just wanted to add that all the main drama can for sure be traced back to her disordered eating leading up to the wedding. I tried to talk to her about it at her bachelorette, and I brought it up many times during the Genovia trip, saying how it was unhealthy and how concerned I was, but she kept saying it was just for the wedding. And she did go back to her normal weight within a few weeks and remains so I'm hoping it really was just for the wedding. I think we can take quite a few learnings from this post. First one being, don't drink on an empty stomach. Nothing good comes out of that, ever. The positives, different from many other Bridezilla stories, is that the friendship still exists. The couple that got married is still together, and the bride is back to apparently healthy eating habits, so that's good. So thank you OP for sharing this story with us. And so we've reached the end of the video. I truly hope you guys liked it. If you did, go ahead and click like. Of course, don't forget to subscribe and click that bell icon so you get notified every time I upload a new video. Also, here are more videos from my channel that you might enjoy. And having said all that, I will see you guys on the next video.